The METUS Tech Show.
Welcome to the METUS Tech Show, a show for HVAC professionals by HVAC professionals.
I like how you guys bounce back and forth between heat pump talk and food talk.
The METUS Tech Show.
Mitsubishi.
All right, so we are still at the 2026 National Sales Meeting in, let's call it Denver, Colorado. I forget the name of the town we're actually in.
Westminster.
Westminster.
It just snowed this morning.
Just a little north of Denver. Yeah.
Beginning of May.
It was 80 degrees yesterday. Snowed today. It's like 40 degrees outside and rainy, but
I'm on the 9th floor of this hotel and I could see the Rockies. Is that what I'm looking at?
yeah,
Basically.
nobody cares.
Yeah.
All I can see is
He's on you're on the 12th floor.
On the 11th.
11th floor.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
Oh,
beautiful.
I'm like a
The
new guy.
guys
I got the
are-
third floor. I got nothing.
see anything.
No
I'm on the
points.
4th
No
floor.
nothing.
You can see a cement wall,
Yeah.
some bricks.
No. Yeah. I have. Yeah, I can see the air handlers. The
Yeah,
fresh air.
I can
handlers.
see some rust the rooftop units.
Yeah, that's what I got here. But anyway, last week we talked about foods Colorado is known for, and desserts. By the way, it's just stressed, spelled backwards, is desserts. So
Ooh.
there's your answer. When you get stressed, have desserts.
Had desserts.
Right? But there's a particular peach, a Palisade peach, that's I guess popular in Colorado because they grow on the western slope. So we get hot days and cold nights, what makes them nice and sweet. It's a high sugar
sounds good.
content. So when you have peaches like that in a state, they're gonna do pies.
Are
and
they mushy,
cobblers?
soft,
I don't
mushy
know.
peaches?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never had one that I know of, but they sound delicious.
Peach cobbler. Yeah.
Love peach cobbler.
Yes. Right out of the oven with a gallon of vanilla bean ice cream.
A whole gallon,
A whole
Well,
not
gallon.
a couple scoops.
Just in case.
Holy
He's
smokes.
stress eating. It's
Bunch
okay.
of slobs on the shelf.
I like for that ice cream to melt and then I'll
bunch
get
of
my
pigs.
straw.
I can hear Juan's dietitian right now.
Oh, he's fired me, so
cut
to
off.
speak.
Yeah, but I guess it's a big thing here. Palisade peaches, yeah, and
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, Paul.
We love them.
Wow. So you were talking about peaches. What were you saying?
no, I was looking at the picture. The picture looks incredible.
They can't see this picture, so.
No, I was
What-
telling everybody last week. We told them we didn't bring the cameras with us because Bryn's the only one who knows how to set those up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we didn't bring him with us, and he's not here.
He's missed.
He's actually he's working the first couple weeks. So he was working when we were here. I think he had vacation scheduled, so he didn't
Yep.
come out here.
Yeah, a few of us don't belong on film anyway.
No, exactly. I have a face for radio, as anyone who's seen
same
me will
here.
attest to it. But anyway, that's just it. I mean, desserts we had here. What was last night's dessert?
I wasn't, I haven't been too crazy
Last
about the
night
food
was
yet, but-
cheesecake.
Oh, it was something in a cup.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah, it was
It
like
was
a little
tiramisu.
parfait type
Same
thing.
thing we had today,
yes.
Was it? No, it
but a
wasn't.
little different.
No,
No,
the tiramisu today was excellent.
Right.
Yes.
That was in a
Chocolate
chocolate cup. The cup was made out of chocolate
Yes.
and edible. I'm not a fan of tiramisu.
Cannolis were good.
The cannolis
cannolis
were
were
excellent.
great.
They weren't North End cannolis, but they were good.
They were
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, but they were kind of small. I had to have 3 to make up for it.
So are we done talking about peaches?
Well, we didn't have the peaches.
Yeah,
so
Paul
I just wanted to
kind of
look it
ended
up.
that abruptly. Said nothing to say more to say about the peaches.
I love peaches.
They grow on the western slopes of.
I love peaches and I like walnuts, but those 2 foods and kiwi, those 3 foods are foods that when I eat, my throat itches and starts to swell shut.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm kind of allergic to them. So my wife tries to get me to eat peach cobbler with walnuts a lot.
There you
Trying
go.
to kill you.
She's trying to get rid of
You know,
I
although
can't blame her.
Once she finds out I could have a whole gallon of ice cream with it, I think that's a game changer.
A gallon.
a gallon.
A gallon.
Whole gallon.
Yeah. Have you ever eaten? I'm just curious, Juan. Have you ever eaten a gallon of ice cream in a day?
Yes. I've eaten it in less than 2 hours.
Well, let me ask you this: have you ever eaten a Ben and Jerry's pint?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that a
That's
pint?
nothing.
Those are
Yeah.
individual. Those are individual.
yeah,
pints.
but did you know that one Ben and Jerry's is like equivalent to like 3 gallons of
Oh,
ice
my
cream?
goodness. That was back in
Yeah, because think of all the stuff they
yeah.
throw in there.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's fantastic.
Cherry Garcia is my
yeah.
favorite.
You know,
Mine-
mine is with. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
New York Super Fudge Chunk has
Yeah,
like
mine is pralines
white
and
chocolate,
cream.
dark chocolate, walnuts, and it's like 10,000 calories a bite.
Mine is pralines and cream.
I love that one.
Is it?
Pralines and cream.
Praline.
That's Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's. They'll make them.
No,
What's it called?
Pralines and cream.
That's what the flavor is called. No, it's not.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Oh, I've never seen it.
You know what I like?
Absolutely.
I like Haagen-Dazs, just the vanilla
Yes.
bean
It's very
Haagen-Dazs.
What does this have to do with Denver?
I have no idea.
Absolutely
we went from
nothing.
I
peaches.
guarantee you, we could get in a car right now, drive to the nearest store. We're going to find all of this in the store. We'll
Yes.
find a Haagen-Dazs. We'll find
Yes.
Ben and
Yeah.
Jerry's.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Haagen-Dazs, my favorite was coconut.
yeah. We couldn't talk about peaches too long because we've never tasted them. We don't know what they're like. And that's it.
So are you playing pickleball tonight?
No.
All right. So
My
we're
wife-
supposed to go as a company
Yes.
outing. We're taking busing like 300 people to this place called Chicken and Pickle.
Yeah, I would listen. I would play pickleball, but my wife's been trying to get me to do it for years.
Yeah.
And then she found out that a lot of people my age get serious injuries, Achilles
Yeah.
and elbows and knees, and can't walk. But she's afraid. The last thing she wants to do is take care of me when I can't walk. Because the last time I was sick, I had a bell to ring for her when I needed something.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, she gave me this bell. She goes, ring this when you need something. I rang it once. She comes over, yes, hon, what can I get you? I rang it again. Like the third time I rang it in like a 20-hour period. Get it yourself.
I'm taking that thing away from you.
Will, did you know I brought all my pickleball gear?
You have a gear.
No.
No.
Oh, listen,
You're out of your mind.
there were
Just
people,
like the peaches conversation.
You're out of your mind. I ain't playing pickleball.
Really?
there were people here who brought their own pickleball
I've
gear.
played it.
I'll probably be eating
I've
pickles,
played it.
but there ain't no
I
pickleball
don't like
happening.
pickles.
I've played it with my grandchildren. They love it.
Going for the chicken, but not the pickle.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I may not go. I'll go, but yeah, it's just it's not. It's something. I'm sorry. I'm an avid indoorsman. If I can't play it, like what sports I like for activities? I like
The
darts,
recliner.
darts and billiards. That's
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
That's about the level of my activity.
Putt for me.
Yeah, putt-putt's good.
Pickleball
Bowling.
has gained massive traction.
Oh, yeah. There's
over the last
competitions.
couple of
Oh, it
years.
has, yeah.
Yes.
They built where I used to live like 4 or 5 brand new pickleball courts, and you'd see people there all the time.
Right.
It seems to be the sport of choice for those people who were older and can no longer play tennis, that didn't really take care of themselves, aren't in shape.
Back in my younger days, which was many moons ago, I was really heavy into racquetball. I loved racquetball.
Now you're just really heavy.
Yes. Peaches.
Peaches.
Okay, so last week we said we're going to call this "Don't Be a Parts Changer."
Right.
We're going to get in. Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome everybody.
Yeah. How
METUS
about
Tech
that?
Show.
Welcome to the METUS Tech Show. And this is a series.
Yes.
And I was basically a call I got this week. Was it this week? No, last week.
Last week.
Inspired me.
Well, by the time this goes out, it was 3 weeks.
You'll
ago.
be.
Yeah, whatever it is, damn it. But yeah, let's stop looking into the future. And just, but yeah, this call that I got at some point in my life inspired me to put this series together, and I call it the METUS Tech Show. Don't Be a Parts Changer Circuit Board Series, because what we're seeing out there in the field is we can't figure it out, so let's just change the boards. Maybe that'll fix it.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong approach.
That's a wrong approach.
It
All
never
right?
does.
And we receive every year piles and piles
Yep.
of circuit boards. And I spoke to someone from our PIMS factory in Mexico. He was he was in Georgia, and he talked to me about a machine that they use to test circuit boards. And they would take these circuit boards and they would just bring this cart over that was probably had like 100 circuit boards in it. They take a circuit board out, whether it was a control board, a power board, whatever kind of board it is, and they'd put it into this machine, and it had a way of testing all of the resistors and capacitors
Oh, wow.
and a path through the board. And they were able to tell, is it good or bad? And just
Pinpoint
throw it in. And he told me
It's incredible.
majority, I don't know
good.
what percentage of it was very high, that all the boards were nothing
No
wrong.
fault. No fault
fault
found.
found. And if
You know, and now there could have been issues with software, possibly in these boards,
Right.
But for the most part, voltage in, voltage out. That's what we're looking for. That's, you know, they were finding good boards, and it's a shame.
Yeah. Now, you weren't here last week because you were in one of the breakout sessions, and I did explain to folks that you were talking to somebody, and they said, "Hey, there's no voltage on these pins," and somebody said, "Oh, replace the board," because we talked about voltage in and voltage out, and these particular pins, which aggravated you to no end. There wasn't supposed to be any voltage out.
Depends on what mode it is.
Right.
And in this particular case, it powers a three-way valve. Some three-way valves are spring return, so they need voltage one way, but not the other. There's multiple ways or multiple pins that you can connect to. But long story short, they made the wrong decision.
Right. And let's sum this up right now in real quick in a sentence or two. You cannot condemn a board unless you know what you expect at those pins. If you go to, and there's no voltage here, you need to know what you expect there before you can condemn it. If you don't know, then don't condemn the board. And we talked about test point diagrams. It tells everything.
And I've got to plug training, because a lot of times a service manual may not be clear enough to a certain technician, and we provide training for every piece of product that we manufacture.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, and our advanced classes cover in depth a lot of those test points. We really go in depth, and we start getting into like inrush current limiting resistors, which we're going to talk about in this episode. Last week you guys did control boards.
Yeah, we did control boards last week.
And we're going to talk about, and there's no real particular order. If you really wanted to get technical and say, where does the voltage come in? It gets cleaned in the noise, but we're just taking it board by board.
But if we were going to do that, we'd have to get equipment specific. Now we can talk about just in general terms. So the way we did it last week is what happens in the boards in high level general terms, right? It depends on the unit, and we're going to be equipment agnostic here. We're not gonna, or unit agnostic or model agnostic. It depends on what happens on the unit. But basically, there's AC power coming in, either single phase or three-phase power. There's a bunch of DC voltage outputs. We're going to take that power, convert it to a high voltage DC. We take that high voltage DC, and we're going to use that to create a variable frequency, variable voltage simulated three-phase AC.
Yep.
Right? We talked about the control board, everything that connected to it last week. So this week, let's start with the noise filter board. And this is, Juan, I think you mentioned this several weeks ago. For that event we went to in Vegas, the guy says it's like Hebrew. You read Hebrew right to left instead of left to right. Noise filter board, it's a board that filters noise.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a great show, guys.
Adios.
But, you mentioned, model specific.
Yes.
You could see all of these boards, noise filter, power board, inverter board, control board, all on one board.
Yep.
Yes.
The FS, the FH, the FX, all those small one-to-one units, you're going to find a one-board system. Everything's happening on that one board.
And typically, that board is in the unit upside down.
Correct.
That requires knowledge on how to test it from the back.
Right. And so I've seen a lot of contractors in class try and pull that board out
to test it.
And have somebody else hold it up while they're trying to. Gets a little messy.
Don't do that.
And that's one thing that I love about the service manual, because the service manual has a test point diagram, which is the actual diagram in back. You can test every board from the back.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. The first time I saw it wasn't an FX. This was probably an FD back then, or whatever the predecessor to that was. But I remember being a technician in the field, taking the top off of the unit and looking at the printed circuit board, the back of it.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, I had to lay down on the ground and work like a car mechanic and work up on an upside down board. Well, if I had RTFM'd, I would have known that I could have done everything from the back, So the noise filter board, right? It's basically going to do the noise. Let's talk about electrical noise. In my mind, when I think of electrical noise, it reminds me when I was a kid. I was a kid before cable, had an antenna for the TV on top of the house. And when my mother turned on anything with a motor, the blender, the mixer, the vacuum cleaner, the garbage disposal, it didn't matter. She turned on anything with a motor, and I got these
You
white
got the
lines
grains.
going across the TV.
Yep.
That's electrical noise,
That's great.
right? So why is filtering that important?
It affects the electronics. Because if you allow that noise to proceed, it could affect the other boards that are in line.
Right.
Right.
And what a lot of people don't talk about is not only are we trying to suppress and clean that voltage on the system side, we're trying to keep it from going back into the breaker
grid.
panel.
Right.
Yep.
Right? And a lot of people don't realize this. All of these noise
Backfeeding.
suppression devices, like the choke coils and
Everything's gone.
reactors and all of these things that you see and are kind of intimidated by when you open up a unit, we're trying to clean that voltage not only in the unit, but going back out. But it's a noise suppressor. And if I was to use an analogy, I'm a musician. I play guitar and I have a lot of effects pedals. When you have effects pedals in line, like distortion pedals, so you can get that gain and that overdrive, like that Eddie Van Halen, that's a lot of noise. And some of it, after you go through 6 pedals, can get very noisy
Oh, wow.
to the point where it sounds terrible coming out of the amplifier, but a noise gate or compressor cleans that up. So it's just another pedal. And if you think about it, it's the same thing. We're trying to suppress and compress and clean that voltage.
And any electronic piece of equipment has this, whether it's a flat screen TV or a mini split or anything with electronics. It's going to have our computers. Some of the computers have this little thicker thing around the wire for the power. That's what it's there for. It's just a little noise suppressor.
So let's talk about some of the components we could find on the noise filter board. Now, remember, I mentioned it before, this could all be happening on one board, 2 boards, or the noise filter board could be by itself. Like our older generation P series had a 3-board system, and one of the boards was the noise filter board.
Right. It was a dedicated noise filter board.
So what are some of the components we could see on that noise filter board? Reactors, right?
Right.
Copper windings. They have
Chokes.
just copper wrapped around a core.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's creating like a magnetic field, and it's cleaning and suppressing. Not only that, but reactors are getting us the power factor we need for an efficiently running motor.
Yes.
Right. We talk about this in advanced M&P. We talk about demand voltage versus wasted voltage, right? Our incoming voltage, we're trying to get the most usable voltage out of that incoming voltage. And those reactors help do that.
Another component that is found on the noise filter section typically is the current limiting resistor.
Yes. Yeah. And like our A6 generation systems, P series systems, and earlier, a lot of those inrush current limiting resistors were exposed, and you could ohm them out easily. It's not the case anymore. They're buried in the board.
Right.
So it's not an easy thing to look at, but we could see multiple reactors, always an inrush current limiting resistor in there. It's that will protect the system.
And a current limiting resistor, it does exactly, again, getting back to the Hebrew analogy, it limits the current. It's a resistor that limits the current. What's important here is it won't allow current to pass very easily, but it still passes voltage.
Right.
Yes.
It's typically connected in parallel with the relay that causes the system to run.
Correct.
So when the relay is open, enough current goes through the resistor to keep the capacitors charged, which is important for when the system starts up.
Enough voltage.
Right. So when the relay closes, path of least resistance, it goes through the relay contacts versus the
Correct.
Yeah. So there's enough voltage passing through, not enough current
right.
to run the inverter, but enough voltage to pass through it that we can power
Everything.
our circuit boards.
Yeah.
We can keep our circuit boards alive, talking, and we have that minimal 5 volts TC so they can all communicate.
All right. And let's, are we ready to talk about the incoming power?
Yeah.
The noise filter board. This is easy because last week we had just this incoming power for the whole, system.
Right.
But the noise filter board is going to be what? L1, L2, or it can be, is this the one that says LI and NI?
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
L
So
and
it's
then
L, like I always think of LI and NI as line in, in neutral, and even though it's 208 or 230, I still
Right. It's common in Europe to
it's
call
in.
Yes.
L
NI
Yeah, LI.
neutral or L2 of the 208 or L2. It's common to call that neutral in Europe.
So LI and NI is line in and in, or neutral. It's the second hot leg in.
which is your voltage into the noise
Right.
filter.
Right.
So if I don't have that, then the problem's probably not in the noise filter board.
Right.
You get a
Right.
backtrack.
I got to backtrack somewhere, probably to the breaker
Yeah.
panel at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Or it could be the wire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's got to, we beat this to death last week, but the voltage has to be plus or minus 10%. If there's any fluctuations, if you're in one of those rural or city areas, I've seen them both, where not enough power, too much power, you need some type of power conditioner on.
Yes.
Yeah. Or, do we have the right voltage to begin with? Check your nameplate.
And it should be this. It should be the exact same as the line voltage coming in. The very first L1 and L2, whatever, should be exactly the same voltage.
Should always be checking our output through the noise filter board.
Right. And what are we expecting? So we got LI and NI coming in, 208, 230.
We should be getting near that coming back out.
Yeah.
It plus or minus. Plus or minus.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So voltage in, voltage out. This is going to be a short episode because noise filter board is really a simple
Simplest
path
board to troubleshoot.
of electricity going through.
Absolutely.
So
Are there any other outputs or inputs for this board that we need to talk about?
there could be
There can be.
208 outputs
Yeah.
on the noise filter board that head up to our F1 and F2 and F3 fuses.
The fuses,
right?
yeah,
So
on
we have
certain
like our
models.
CNAC1, CNAC2, or sometimes CNAC11, CNAC12. They're just connectors on the noise filter board that send 208 directly to anything that needs 208.
208,
Let's
right.
think about what needs 208. Our indoor unit,
Yeah,
S1 and S2, if it's applicable for that model.
Sure.
Our F3 and F4 fuses on the control board, which we're sending 208, 230 to through reversing valves. I was gonna say three-way
or
valve.
solenoid valves.
I'm in the EcoDan world.
Four-way
But
valve.
reversing valves, solenoid valves, if there are any, and some of our P series and Smart Multi may have 2 or 3 solenoid valves in it.
Yes.
Right.
And to make a general comment, all of our solenoid coils, whether it's a solenoid valve or a reversing valve, all of our solenoid coils are energized with 208,
Good
230.
point.
Correct.
Good point. What about baseband heaters?
208,
Accessories.
230.
Yeah.
Up to 230. So very common to see those connectors on there. Now, when we head into the commercial world, a noise filter board could have a multitude of
Yes.
other components on it. But for the most part, all it is we're just trying to clean and suppress that voltage. We're trying to raise the power factor. We're trying to make that motor as quiet and efficient as possible.
Yes.
That's the purpose of that noise filter board. We're trying to clean up that voltage in the inverter, which is the next episode. I'm going to talk about the inverter circuit. But
Well, let's continue with inputs and outputs because there's one output I want to talk about. You got to look at the diagram, and the diagram is very easy to look at and follow. You got the power coming in, look where the power goes out. Any one of those powers is missing. Are there fuses typically on the noise filter board?
For the most part, yes.
yeah, and they could be replaceable
Or soldered in.
Soldered in.
Yeah.
So
If they're
that's-
soldered in, I'm sorry, we got to replace the board.
Yes.
We talked about this recently. Well, I'm trying to think if we talked about it on an episode or in class, because I talked about it in class quite a
Right.
bit with our new A2L systems that just came out.
They're all soldered.
Yes,
braced.
they're all soldered
Soldered.
now.
Yeah.
What's the reason? Everybody's asking me, and I don't know the reasoning behind why they
I can
permanently soldered them in.
speculate.
I can speculate that of technicians removing components off of a board with it powered on.
Yes.
No, I don't know.
What do you
and
think,
then
Will?
creating a spark.
Well, I was
when you
gonna-
remove the fuse, if there's a leak in the system,
Mm-hmm.
potentially.
I don't know. It could be. But the answer is we don't know.
We don't know.
We could speculate.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about that current limiting resistor. How often would you find that where it's shorted or open?
Yes.
And what would cause that? And then what do you do?
Okay, so the current limiting resistor is what I call the sacrificial lamb because it's there to protect the components downstream from it. And typically the first component that's found downstream from it is the inverter board. So if there's a short on the inverter board, that current limiting resistor is going to fail, it's going to open up. Well, guess what? You've got 208 to 30 at LI and NI, but no voltage out at LO and NO. So typically, I cover this in my classes. Unless you go to training, or unless you take time to read it in the manual, what are you going to do typically? You're going to replace the board.
Of course.
Because voltage in, but no voltage out.
Yep.
So you're going to order a new board, you're going to put it in, you're going to power up, bang, you
Same
just
thing.
killed the same thing.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing further testing.
Yeah. So I have to double check and make sure it is that limiting resistor, the current limiting resistor. And if it is that, I'm not done.
Right.
Right.
I
You
can have a
need to
chain
do
reaction
further.
of things happening.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got a power board that failed, took out my current limiting resistor, but what took out the power board?
Yeah.
Compressor? Are you
Or
checking all
fan
these
mo-
things?
fan
A big
motor
chain
could do it
reaction
too.
of things.
Yeah.
right?
You have to keep
Absolutely.
going. You have to
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
It's like a fuse. The same thing's like a fuse. When you get a blown fuse, if you don't know what blew that fuse, it's going to go again.
Right.
Right.
And the current limiting resistor is in the LI-NI circuit.
Right.
So you can remove one of those two wires and ohm it out, and it should measure 20,000 ohms. Or
On the board,
20K
the board
on
itself.
the board,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
But-
if you don't measure that,
Yeah.
could be shorted or open, you do, like Paul said, you better be doing some further testing.
Yeah.
Right.
What if it's a one board system? What if it's an FH?
It's harder to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you got a one board system, but you still have to look at your external components
Yes.
that are connected to that board. And that's the big components, your compressor, right? Did that damage that unit? But either way, it's a one board system. You're changing the whole board.
And typically those components are typically tested through a resistance test.
Yes.
And that's how you find if it's a bad.
What about ground? How important is ground?
Yeah, you don't need to ground anything. Just it's more of a nice to have. You don't have to have a ground.
Well, we need somewhere to.
There was a point on a service call I had where I actually became the ground.
Oh,
Yes.
Ouch.
It's a long story. Actually, no, it's not.
With you, it's probably short.
No, it's not really a long story at all. It wasn't properly grounded, and when I came up and touched it, I became the easy path to ground. Oh, that hurt like heck.
I'll
You saw
never,
the light.
I'll
You saw
never.
the light.
Yeah.
well, we've talked about how important grounds are on furnaces.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, for flame rectification,
Yeah,
it's important. It's not just safety anymore.
Right.
It's obviously important
It's a
for
requirement.
safety, right? But it does other things too.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, we dump our electromagnetic interference down through ground.
good point. Well, yes, it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we talked about fuses. We talked about some thermal protection, inline fuses, current limiting resistor. What else? Capacitors. Could we have capacitors?
About capacitors.
Smoothing capacitors could be on the noise filter board,
Yes.
depending on the model.
Yes.
Right. Most of the time, our smoothing capacitors are on our power boards,
Correct.
or inverter boards, which we'll talk about in a later episode. But yeah,
Yeah, because if you don't smooth out that circuit, you're not going to be able to control it.
Yeah. Are those capacitors, are we able to test them?
You could if you wanted to, but why? If we're testing inputs and outputs.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, these are circuit boards. Juan's absolutely right. It's power in, power out.
Yeah.
Don't get lost in all these little components that are in there. You don't have to be able to diagnose them
Right.
all. You're not going to take this and you're not going to get an O-scope out for most calls
Right.
unless you got something strange. And it's just, you don't have to know. I don't have to know what the resistance of this resistor that's soldered into this
Absolutely
board,
not.
what this transistor does. I don't have to know what any of it does. I'm looking at power in, power out. It really, keep it simple.
Yep.
what does the noise filter board not do? Well, basically, it does not generate DC voltage.
Right.
Right. It does not control compressor speed.
Nope.
And it does not communicate with the indoor units. So it has its own job, and that is to clean incoming voltage, suppress it, and get rid of bad harmonics.
Sure.
Right? So we're looking for line voltage in, line voltage out, and a solid ground.
Solid ground.
That's all ground.
That's
That's
it.
basically
Back to the ground. As far as I'm concerned, the ground wire is the most important wire in the whole system.
Yeah. And if you look at our systems, it's not uncommon to see more than one ground coming off of our circuit board.
There's
You'll
multiple
see
grounds.
5 or 6 ground wires.
Absolutely.
They are, when they come out at the factory, they're adamant about grounding all those different points. So you'll see 5 or 6 black wires going to the chassis of that outdoor unit.
In black, not green, because it's not a safety ground.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Good point.
that about wraps up noise filter
This
boards.
was a short and sweet one.
Simplest board to troubleshoot. Line in,
Yeah.
line out. That's it.
Yeah.
One of the
I like
most
it.
important. Yeah,
Yep.
and one of the most important.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
So that's it. Anything else?
Diagnose.
Absolutely.
Don't be a parts charger.
changer.
Yes.
Check the manual.
And don't be one of those, like I had one guy had a nickname for him in class, bad out of the box Bob.
Yeah.
Because everything was bad out of the box.
You know how much testing they do with these things before they even go in the box and that box ships out? It's very unlikely that it's bad out of the box.
Absolutely.
And
And everything can be tested. All you got to do is read a manual or come to training to learn how to test that.
listen, you're a service technician, you're a professional. The people depend on you to diagnose things properly. Are you going to know this right up? If this is your first day in the field, probably not, but you got to learn. Guess what? If this is your 10th or 15th year in the field, you might still have to learn too.
Yes, absolutely.
But take those manuals and read them, attend training, look for e-learnings. We're always putting out more and more e-learnings. We have the tech links that we've got out there. And don't be the guy that comes in and just says, I'm going to order all 3 boards. It's bound to be one of them. Yeah. Because if it's one of those outside influences things we talked about, you just ordered boards for no reason.
For nothing.
And forget about, because a lot of guys, well, it's under warranty, order all 3 boards.
Yeah.
Well, you still got to, the customer still has to pay for the
That's
labor.
a waste.
Listen, the customer still has to pay for the labor,
Yes.
and they're still down that whole time that it took you to get those 3 boards and come back and put them in. So don't be that person. Don't be a parts changer. Be a technician and diagnose the system.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing that I mentioned as part of my opener in my classes. Everybody attending class is a 10%er. And that's a good thing because 90% of the industry does not go to training.
That's right.
Right.
Good point.
Okay.
It's a great point.
That's it then, right? We're done?
We're done.
We're done.
So have we learned everything there is to learn about Denver or Colorado peaches?
Yeah, go buy some. Palisade, what are they called? Palisade peaches, I think it was.
Yeah.
Which I thought Palisades was in California.
I
If you
thought
said
so,
Palisade
too.
peaches, I would think California. But although Palisades burned down a couple years ago, I don't think they rebuilt
Yep.
it yet.
Not yet.
My wife's cousins had a house out there. It was awful. Whole thing.
That's terrible.
Yep.
All right, guys. Be safe
see you
out
on the
there.
next
All right, take care.
All right. Adios.